If they do these 6 things, it's game over. They're now coming back. It's short, urgent, and tells the listener they're about to hear something definitive and possibly life-changing. Exactly the kind of hook that grabs attention in the first 20 seconds. If you want, I can also craft a full 20-second spoken hook in Mel Robbins style to open your video. When an avoidant person shows certain patterns, it's not about confusion, mixed signals, or them needing space for a little while. It's about them emotionally closing the door, even if they haven't said the words out loud. The truth is, avoidants rarely make a dramatic announcement when they decide they're done. They don't always break up in a big emotional scene. Instead, they start to slowly remove themselves from the relationship. It's like watching someone pull away from the shore in a boat. So quietly you don't notice the distance until they're already far out. When an avoidant reaches that point, it isn't about fixing things, because in their mind, they've already detached. You can send the heartfelt messages, the apologies, the reminders of good times, and you might even get a polite response. But behind those short replies, there's no intent to re-engage emotionally. One of the clearest signs is the absence of curiosity about your life. They used to ask about your day, your plans, your feelings. Now it's just surface-level interaction, if any at all. They've stopped letting you into their world and stopped caring to step into yours. That's not distance that can be bridged with more effort on your part. That's a sign they've already made peace with moving on. Another thing you'll notice is the way they stop making any kind of future plans with you. Even small things like, let's grab dinner next week, disappear. They'll keep conversations in the now or avoid them altogether. Because in their mind, there's no next week for the two of you. This can be incredibly painful to realize because you keep hoping for a turning point, the moment they'll wake up and miss you. But avoidants are wired differently when they've detached. Instead of longing to return, they feel relief in the space they've created. That relief tells them they made the right choice, which is why chasing them often pushes them even further away. What makes this so hard is that avoidants often aren't cruel in the process. They may still be polite, still smile, still respond occasionally, but there's an emotional flatness you can feel if you're paying attention. They're not trying to work things out. They're trying to make the separation less messy. The sooner you see these patterns for what they are, the sooner you can stop waiting for a reunion that isn't coming. It's not about being unworthy or not trying hard enough. It's about recognizing when someone's emotional investment is gone and reclaiming your energy instead of pouring it into a closed door. And once you accept that, you can shift your focus to building a future where you are wanted, chosen, and fully met. If you see these 6 signs, you have to stop telling yourself it's just a rough patch, or that they'll eventually come around. It's not about giving them space so they can figure things out. It's about recognizing that they've already made their decision, even if they haven't put it into words. Avoidants have a way of ending relationships without the dramatic confrontation. They won't necessarily sit you down and say it's over. Instead, they'll let the connection die quietly, hoping you'll eventually see it for yourself. The problem is when you care about them, you can misinterpret the silence as temporary instead of final. One of the biggest giveaways is that they stop making any effort to keep the emotional bond alive. No more meaningful conversations, no more checking in, no more sharing what's really going on in their world. They reduce the interaction to bare minimum communication, just enough to keep it civil, but not enough to nurture the relationship. If you're paying attention, you'll feel the shift. It's like they're still physically present, but their emotional presence is gone. You might also notice that they start avoiding situations that would naturally bring you closer. They won't suggest spending time together. They'll say they're busy, tired, or just not feeling up for it. And while that can happen in any relationship from time to time, here it's different. It's consistent. It's not a week or two of distance. It's a new pattern. Another sign is how they react when you try to close the gap. You can reach out more, plan things, or express your feelings, but instead of moving toward you, they respond with even more withdrawal. That's because avoidants often feel suffocated when they've already mentally checked out. To them, your attempts to fix things confirm their decision to leave because they see the relationship as something they no longer want to manage. The hard truth is, when these signs show up all together, waiting and hoping becomes a form of self-betrayal. You keep postponing your own healing because you believe there's a chance they'll come back, when in reality, they're using the distance to quietly transition out of the connection. You're investing in something that they've already emotionally ended. This is where you have to shift your focus from how do I get them back to how do I get myself back? Because the more you chase someone who's already gone in their heart, the more you lose yourself in the process. Your worth isn't measured by their willingness to return. It's measured by your ability to see the truth, honor it, and choose yourself over someone who's already chosen to walk away. Once you accept that these signs mean it's over, you free yourself from the waiting game and open the door to a future where you don't have to convince someone to stay. Avoidants don't often speak in direct, final terms when they're done. Instead, they communicate it through actions and subtle shifts in behavior. And one of the most telling is when they start making moves that quietly say goodbye without ever saying the words. They may still be physically around for a short time, but emotionally, they've already begun walking out the door. When someone is avoidant and emotionally finished, they won't suddenly become cold and hostile. In fact, many of them try to exit with as little conflict as possible. That means they'll be polite, they might even smile when they see you, but there's no depth in their presence anymore. It's like talking to someone who's only half listening, because the other half of them is already living somewhere else in their mind. One of the clearest signs is that they stop initiating any form of closeness. They won't reach out to share good news, they won't text just to connect, and they won't open up about how they're feeling. Instead, conversations become purely functional, about logistics, about day-to-day things that don't require emotional engagement. That's because they're no longer invested in building anything together. They might also physically withdraw in subtle ways. Where there used to be affectionate touches, hugs, or casual closeness, there's now a noticeable absence. They won't necessarily push you away outright, but they won't offer affection freely anymore. This isn't about being busy or stressed. It's a sign that the emotional connection has been severed in their mind, and they're preparing you, consciously or unconsciously, to adjust to that reality. The hardest part is that avoidants rarely give you the closure you crave. They don't often explain why they're leaving, because for them, the decision feels internal and private. They've convinced themselves that pulling away is the kindest way to go, even though for you it feels like slow emotional starvation. This lack of clarity can keep you trapped in confusion, thinking maybe things will turn around if you just wait. But when they've stopped showing interest in your inner world, when they no longer invite you into theirs, and when the small acts of connection that once defined your bond have completely vanished, that's not a pause. That's an ending. And the sooner you see that, the sooner you can stop searching for signs of hope in a place where there's none left. It's not easy to accept that someone you love has already said goodbye in their own quiet way, but recognizing it gives you the power to protect your heart and stop pouring energy into someone who's already gone in spirit. From there, you can begin the process of reclaiming your self-worth, rebuilding your life, and opening yourself to connections where goodbye isn't hidden in the fine print of their behavior. You're not crazy for noticing the shift. When an avoidant has decided they're not coming back, their behaviors carry a certain flatness that's impossible to miss once you stop making excuses for it. They might still talk to you, still respond to your messages, and still appear polite. But underneath it all, there's an emotional vacancy. It's not that they're busy or stressed. It's that they've already closed the chapter in their mind. One of the most painful parts of this is how it makes you doubt yourself. You replay old conversations, wondering if you overreacted or expected too much. You start questioning your instincts, because on the surface they might still be cordial. But deep down, you feel the difference in the way they engage. They no longer light up when they see you. Their words feel rehearsed or generic, as if they're running on autopilot. When someone's emotionally invested, you can feel their presence even in silence. When they're not, you can be standing right next to them and still feel completely alone. Avoidants in this stage often keep the peace to avoid messy confrontations, but the peace is hollow. It's not built on connection, it's built on distance. You might notice they stop bringing any emotional energy into the relationship. They don't share dreams, fears, or stories anymore. They avoid topics that used to spark deep conversations, replacing them with neutral, safe subjects. This isn't to protect the relationship. It's to protect themselves from feeling entangled again. The tricky part is that avoidants rarely make a dramatic exit. They prefer a quiet fade out, and that can make you cling harder, thinking if you just put in more effort, they'll come back. But the more you try to pull them closer during this stage, the more they retreat. It's not about needing more time. It's about the fact that their heart is no longer in it. That's why it's so important to believe your gut when you sense this emotional absence. Your instincts are picking up on something real, even if they never admit it outright. The flat tone in their voice, the lack of enthusiasm to see you, the way they avoid meaningful moments. These are not signs of temporary detachment. They're signs of an ending they've already accepted. It hurts to realize someone isn't fighting for you the way you'd fight for them. It hurts even more when you realize you've been fighting alone for a while without acknowledging it. But accepting the truth is an act of self-respect. It allows you to stop pouring love into a space where it isn't being returned and start redirecting that energy into places and people who will meet you fully. And that shift, as painful as it is what ultimately frees you. If they're avoidant in doing this, it's over. There comes a point when their actions speak so clearly that no amount of hoping or rationalizing can change what's in front of you. An avoidant who's done doesn't need to have a big confrontation or announce a breakup in obvious terms. They simply start living as if you're no longer part of their inner circle. One of the first shifts you'll notice is that they no longer seek connection in any form. They don't initiate contact, and when you reach out, their responses are brief, delayed, or lack any real warmth. It's not just that they're busy, it's that you're no longer on their mental priority list. Even when you do connect, the energy is flat, and you feel like you're talking to someone who's only half present. Avoidants often handle endings by emotionally withdrawing long before anything changes on the surface. To them, this makes the separation easier. They think creating distance now will lessen the impact later. But for you, it feels like being slowly erased from their life without explanation. They may still fulfill basic obligations, but there's no spontaneity, no desire to share experiences, no effort to maintain the bond you once had. You'll also see that they stop creating any shared future with you. Plans disappear, conversations about next month or next year vanish, and the connection is kept strictly in the present or avoided entirely. This is because they're no longer envisioning you in their life going forward. And when someone has stopped seeing you in their future, holding on becomes an act of self-denial. Another telltale sign is how they handle your attempts to reconnect. Instead of being receptive, they might seem irritated, guarded, or overly neutral. They'll keep things short and surface level, making it clear without saying it outright that they don't want to dive deeper. This isn't shyness or introversion, it's emotional disengagement. The hardest part is that this behavior can make you cling harder because you're chasing the version of them who used to be open, affectionate, and engaged. But that version isn't here anymore, and the more you chase, the more they retreat. Avoidants value their emotional space, and when they've decided you no longer belong in it, any attempt to re-enter feels like a threat to the freedom they're trying to reclaim. It's painful to accept, but when an avoidant has shifted into this mode, they're not coming back. They've already closed the door in their heart, even if they've left it cracked open just enough for politeness. The longer you wait for them to change their mind, the more time you spend in limbo, holding on to a connection that exists only in memory. Recognizing this isn't about giving up on love. It's about choosing yourself over someone who's already chosen distance. It's the moment you stop knocking on a closed door and start walking toward one that's wide open, waiting for you to step through.